on to calmer seas for me. Patriarchy, that thing, has been absurd since I read Mary Renault at 13. Renault. The finest mind-spirit combination I've encountered yet. Shakespeare comes in at about number 9. Unless he was a Chekhov, really, and King Lear is a comedy. It does happen. Up the ranks he rises, but still she sits atop with several sisters. It is the world where we live, where someone says something obvious and the all-white jury agrees. Or Richard II is played weak and falling because he is not Bibi. Another lifetime, I'll have another try. Renault. Somebody hinted she was somehow second rate. I don't think he meant it. The general conclusion is that she spoke to gay people particularly. Well, not so far, but life is long. I landed in another warm spot this morning. James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause, and Sal Mineo. The author wonders, were they all having sex? Sal, Jimmy, and Nicholas Ray, and then states that the homoeroticism of Sal and James was obvious on screen. I was 14 when I caught up with it, and my longings had already lasted a decade almost. And no, dude, I saw two young fellas listening to each other, affecting each other. If this is love, getting shacked up kind of love, listening to each other, we should hurry up and marry everyone. Not arguing, just I wonder how it is to be in this other's head and to express oneself and be paid for it. Did this author really see that? Or more fairly, did his culture not prepare him to see two men listening to each other, caring for each other? Or did I have the bullets signal backstage sex? A long time ago, I played Benvolio in Romeo and Juliet. When Mercutio is killed, the prince runs on and demands, "Saw you the fray? Well, who began it?" or something like that. And I just exploded, Tybalt, and roared through the rest of it, a flooding of tears. A wonderful young woman who did hair on the production was very impressed, but she said, "I hope you don't mind," it was in England, "but it seemed camp." I blinked. Your thought, not mine, but it works. Mercutio and I were pals in real life. Time and distance have made us strangers, but I would tell anyone I loved him. Even as we parted nightly with women, we should all grieve the loss of Mercutio. All of us, like Benvolio does. We shall not look upon his like again, for a few plays anyway. And nobody would say, I think, were I gay and playing Hotspur, that was a bit butch. Or they might, you never know. What fun. Well done, Shakespeare, right? These and many things are interesting to me as I reveal myself to myself. At what place are various peers of mine starting that they would espy behaviors and sexual preferences where I would not? In fact, I don't know if I ever saw sexual chemistry on screen. Or it isn't something I'd see because I'm not interested in it, in watching it. There's a very funny story about Ben-Hur, the Charlton Heston one. Gore Vidal was a contributing writer. Shooting had begun. The creatives were worried the relationship between Ben and Messala wasn't convincing. Gore suggested they were old friends and had been lovers in the past, pretty standard in those old Roman days. Great idea, thought the team. Then Gore said, don't tell Heston. Stephen Boyd was fine with the idea, but Chuck was never told. But knowing the story, it is funny. Chuck played right along, and the rest is history. But what of this lore, this seeing things where I do not, or maybe I'm ignorant, or rather, where I saw an unusual level of sympathy between actors, thought, well, those are just really good actors, and Dean surely was. They were all beautiful, and we missed them all. Renaud does this. We weep at the losses because the human is so deeply made. All Mercutio's depth may come and go in fashion, but there it always is. Sorry, dears, below. I might start again with Mary, praise singer this time. They all start like they mean to continue. The Greek insistence. I'm going back soon, inshallah, to Athens. The first flight in 1980 was some kind of shock. Or shall I say, in tune with today, I felt I looked upon a homeland. From the plane coming in, all those barren, golden barren hills with creases of green, following streams between the hills and the city in the distance, from the airport gleaming like alabaster with the cocoa dusting of that famous air pollution. And on landing almost immediately, the buzzing of the Eastern music, the cradle of Europe, or whatever they claim, my eye. The place was alive with Asia and Africa, buzz, buzz, all so open, not covered and domed and clothed like Florence. Poor Rome skulking in its bloody stories. Rome, the cradle of Europe indeed, and all those massacres to come, while Greece danced in her androgyny, accusing the East of exactly what, accusing Persia of exactly what Rome would soon accuse her of being hypnotic and effeminate and interesting. Somebody said that once that the East, Persia, worshipped death and sleep, while the West was awake in Greece, dynamic, I guess, like John Wayne at Iwo Jima. True, I guess, if you like that kind of thing, that denial of what goes on below. It was the first, I guess, after a couple of Renaud stories, The Boy's Own Bull from the Sea and King Must Die, read for the action bits, the landing in Athens in my early 20s and feeling civilization uncerebral, seductive for the first time, before falling apart a year later and turning to her on the bookshelves and reading the rest like medicine. This was a homeland indeed, no blue stones or condescensions, no museums or library, a little burnt lamb in Retsina, and I was off. Then the dreams of thunder started, being rooted on the barren hill like a lion in the wrong place. Never been here before, but still I remembered it. I might have gone all ancestral memory about it, but I passed. I just let her grip me, ever since. And it has not gone away or even faded in the least bit. It still rescues formal, this repetition, a home exactly. I did let on to some black-haired beauty at a bar in Syntagma that I felt I had come home, and she said, "There you are, we are all Greek, just waiting to know it." She danced off, and I thought, how pagan, what an attitude that crumbles Western values like a soft bang. Just make the rent.